morning and welcome to the Sober Heathen podcast. This will be another short, but glad to be here today. Welcome, friend and foe. I'm Scott. I'm the Sober Heathen. I just kind of thinking about when I'm watching this. I play the intro music. I'm sitting here doing nothing, and I wonder what people are thinking if they're watching the video. I could do some editing. I mentioned this before. I can do some editing. I can probably learn how to do that, and not have myself sitting here looking at my phone and doing random things or jamming to the music. But fuck it, this is who I am. You can call it lazy, call it what you wish. I don't give a shit. It's who I am. So anyway, appreciate you listening. If you have some great comments waking up to this morning on X. A couple people have watched the last video, got some good feedback, on some posts that I've had on X. I'm really lately, my drive isn't to, it's still to share my story. I think that's very important for me to remain authentic and talk about what's going on. And I'm going to do that here in a minute as well. But I feel lately I need to ask questions and get people's opinions on things and to see where their head is at in their recovery, because as I've been tweeting recently, I talk about AA and I've questioned a lot of things on that. And again, believe it or not, it's not to disparage AA. I've said it before. I've said it one more time. Well, I'll probably say it 100 more times, but I appreciate AA and it did a lot for me. It was like part of the foundation that I built to get to where I'm at, which is just a few weeks away, maybe less than a few weeks now, from 1 year of sobriety, recovery. Again, those are two words that I love to talk about too and what they mean. I haven't had a drink of alcohol coming up on 1 year. So I think I'm really enjoying hearing people's perspective, because, even the people that are super supportive of AA, they come at it from different angles. So I think it's honestly laughable sometimes when people come on and say AA is the only way, or they make comments like, this is dangerous to say these things, and they'll make these ridiculous comments and claims, and their way of looking at it is completely different than the other person that actually even agrees with them, and that what I'm saying can be dangerous or alarming or whatever the words were used to describe some of my responses lately. And they just, there is no one way to do the 12 steps. The 12 steps haven't changed. I understand that, but their interpretation and the way that people read them is different for everybody. And I've done a couple videos on the 12 steps. I'll probably do it again. And again, I truly appreciate the 12 steps. Obviously, it's done something for a decent amount of people, or it wouldn't exist. I mean, it does have help from the courts. Now, the job that I have, people are being sentenced and sent to us to drug test and to get therapy, and then they also have to attend recovery meetings, which are typically the number one suggested one is AA meetings. And in my experience being here and in real life, and not just this job that I've been doing now for a couple months, maybe a few months, people are looking for alternatives, because whether it's an individual or individuals in an AA meeting that rub them the wrong way, or maybe it's just the steps themselves that they don't vibe with, and that should be okay. We shouldn't think that people need to be forced into doing the 12 steps, or forced into believing that this is the only way. So that's really the purpose. I want to give people a little bit of my experience and my journey, and if that helps them, great. If it doesn't, well, that's okay. But I want to use the little platform that I have right now. It's not like I have tens of thousands of followers or anything like that, but if somebody is following me on X, or they follow this podcast, and a guest or myself says something that points them in a direction that ends up being helpful for them, that's the ultimate goal. Whether that happens or not, I know it happens because I get DMs, or I get emails saying that those things have happened. So even though, again, those aren't in large quantities, it's been way more than I expected, and it's been enough to justify continuing to do this. So as far as me, last night I was on the couch talking to my significant other, It's been a rough couple weeks. Like I'm not miserable, um, but my, my I'm easily annoyed. And again, it's not with people in my house. It's it's like, and it's I don't gotta be careful what I say here, but there are people in the world that I interact in that I've given them short leash to really piss me off, and that's my fault, not theirs. Um, so I just what's my problem has been is I've lost what I call like a spark. Excuse me. Or I've lost over these past couple of weeks, I've lost that connection to myself. And what I've come to believe is that is the dangerous thing. It's not a connection to a higher power, something that you um, either don't really understand or only you can understand. Um, it's the connection to yourself and who you are and how authentic you are to the world. And I just had somebody I consider kind of a friend, as far as friends can be, people that you've never met, but somebody that I DM quite a bit. Um, and he asked me, about what pathway I'm currently on, and I don't know how to explain that other than I'm doing my best. And I just noticed that it kind of looks like I have a red halo. Would red halo mean like devil? I'm all right with that. I was just anyway. Uh, my pathway is through the readings and everything I've done is to be as authentic as I can without causing problems on the outside. So what that means to me is when I disagree with something, I ask myself three questions, and my old counselor, John P. Duty, I don't know if he listens to the podcast, probably not, but any of you that does, or that do and have been to the treatment facility in Arbor Hall that I was, you'll know who John P. Duty is. He asks three questions when you think you need to say something or comment on something. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said by me right now? And I try to use that to the best of my ability when I'm commenting on social media and in the real world. I try to go through those things. Does it need to be said right now, really? And am I the one that even needs to say it? Is this my place? So I try to use those things, but I also try to speak how I feel and be as authentic as possible. So see, when I started uh, my Twitter account, now X, and I started this YouTube account, I was as open and honest about my personal story as possible. And I think that's what drew people in. And I think that's what people appreciate. And I'll get back to how I'm doing here in a second. But I think that's what drew people in. And I'm able to do that so easily now. Talking about myself, I don't care who sees it. People at work, when they start to ask me about my recovery or things that happened in the past, they're like, "Hey, did blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "You don't need to whisper. I don't give a shit." I've pissed my pants. I've shit my pants. I've shit all over walls. I've long time ago woke up in a woman's shirt that was like a belly shirt, and I didn't even notice. I was walking around it. The girl was with my buddy, and she's like, "Is that my shirt?" And there are a lot worse things that have happened to me, but those are just some that quickly come to mind. I'm not ashamed of any of that stuff. But where the problem comes with the authenticity part is how I present myself. And I feel that is a disservice to myself if and on social media and my YouTube channel, if I hold back on what I truly feel, I'm not being authentic to myself. So I can be authentic about myself, but if I'm not saying how I feel, like I don't agree with that, just to maintain followers or people liking me, that starts to build up inside it. And it's like it's the same thing, like uh, with parents or family. If you feel like you have to act a certain way around them to maintain their grace or their love, or friends, family, friends, whatever, you're not being your authentic self. And I believe from the research that I've been doing for myself that is true. And the relationships that are fulfilling are the ones like with Miley. And some of my close friends where I can be exactly who I am, and those are the people I want to be around. So why would I entertain other relationships? Now I get sometimes you have to entertain other relationships. If you're one of your parents is a giant douche, but you love them and you just don't want to deal with it, so you change who you are for an hour or two while you're spending time with them. I understand that, but as a whole, I want to be who I am all the time and not carry the weight of a fraud. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but I want to be as authentic as possible. So that's the pathway that I'm marching on right now. It's a pathway of authenticity. Um, I can be authentic in the future if I'm ever in a group of people that I don't really know, but I want to be around and get to know more. And they're drinking, and they start asking questions why. I can be authentic and say, well, the last time that I had drinking involved in my life, and then I can tell them some stories openly and honestly, and that'll probably be enough. And if it's not enough, then I don't need to get to know these people further than that. So anyway, these past couple of weeks have been a real shit show mentally for me. Um, I wake up and like, oh man, it feels good. I'm actually sleeping very well. And I wake up in the morning, I feel good. And by the time that I get dressed or get out of the shower, I'm already miserable for the day. I'm dreading going to work and dealing with things at work. And, so my day is ruined before I even get to work. And then I'm already, I've already planned my day to be shit. So all the shit is highlighted in bright orange and right there for me to focus on. And what really frustrates me is that I recognize this and I can see this. And when I react the way I do, then I get pissed off at myself for reacting that way. And it's been a vicious fucking cycle. So last night I get home from work. I didn't want to eat dinner, but I ate dinner and I wasn't very talkative, and I don't like that. It's not that I don't want to be, I just didn't feel like it. I wanted to go to bed um, after we were done eating and cleaning up and not talk to anybody, even though I truly love the people that are in this home with me, and my friends and my children who aren't in this home with me, but I need to, talk to and have a relationship with. I love them all. I just didn't want to talk. And so I called my kids and talking to them, and my son asked me to play some video games. So I got on and I didn't feel like it. Maybe it's pity party, call it what you want. I'm fine with whatever you want to call it. Got on, I was playing with my son, and he's like, Dad, he's like, why do you sound like you're not having any fun? And I'm like, buddy, I'm sorry, I am having fun. Um, just tired or something. I gave something. And then right after that, I don't know if that comment and my actions led to him to react the way he did to his twin brother. And shortly after that, his brother came down and said something. My son started screaming at his brother, and he was super upset. And he's like, I got to go or I'm going to get grounded. And he was gone. And so that was pretty crushing. And, I didn't want the evening to end like that. And I didn't want it to begin that way either. And, so I went on the couch and I was crying because all these things that I'm letting affect me are built up to that moment, and it had a negative impact on somebody that didn't deserve it. And so then that builds on myself, where it's like, you know, I said to Miley, I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do anymore. And, her suggestion was going back and talking with my family doctor and continuing exploring, um, you know, uh, medications. And I've been down this road several times, and in all fairness, most of them was prior to this 11 months or so, involved a lot of alcohol and the depression meds and stuff that I've been taking. I was on a prescription med for depression and anxiety, excuse me, during these 11 months. And these same type of episodes would present themselves over and over again. And so I'm like, why am I putting this pharmaceutical shit in my body when everything ends up the same fucking way anyway? Why am I, my thought is, and this is ridiculous, and okay, no, it's not ridiculous. I'm gonna be authentic here. It is not ridiculous for me not to want to, use the substance that I used for 20 years to make myself feel a certain way and trade it for another substance that I really don't know a lot about. And I feel that my doctor doesn't always know a lot about either. And my evidence to support this, and this is not a bash on doctors, my evidence to support this is I've had a doctor that prescribed me naltrexone, and he told me, prescribed it to me, and his instructions were wrong on how to do it, and how to use it. And so I was using that medication that may or may not have helped me if used properly. Um, and so my trust in them and the system of medical doctors is lacking tremendously. And there are good doctors out there. I'm not saying that. I'm gonna go off slightly here a little bit. I can say something bad about AA and doctors, and that doesn't mean that I hate all of AA and all doctors. I can say something positive about police officers, and that doesn't mean that I like all of them. I can say something bad about police officers, and that doesn't mean I hate all of them. I think that's something very important that we all need to recognize. I can give a certain politician a compliment, and that doesn't mean I agree with everything they do. We are just, right now, it is just, everybody is just on edge, and it is just insane about everything. So anyway, enough of that. So I'm going to talk to one of the therapists that work today, not in a session. Obviously, that's conflict of interest potentially, or whatever terminology you want to use. But just see if they can point me to somebody to talk to, and that's where we're going to go. I've also been exploring psychedelics. I have not used it. I'm exploring, as in I'm getting information. I hesitated talking about it before, but I did try an edible a few weeks ago, and it was not for me. I did not, and it wasn't for party time. It was legit for anxiety and depression, because it is killing me. The anxiety that I cannot control. And, a lot of laughing happened when I tried it, a lot of laughing. It was an enjoyable experience as far as the laughter and the experience, like something new. But my thoughts were in color, and they wouldn't slow down, and I didn't like it, and I'll never do it again. So some would say, by me trying an edible, that I'm no longer almost a year sober, and that's fine. You can think that. You're wrong, because edibles weren't my problem, and I wasn't taking it to get away or to escape. I was doing it to try to fix something that I can't control, and other people have done it. And the people that will say that, to make a comment like that, a lot of times come from the AA side. And so I'm going to close here with two thoughts. When people explore other avenues of dealing with depression and anxiety, and it is for that purpose, and they put aside the alcohol, or they put aside heroin, or they put aside whatever substance that was ruining their lives, that made their lives unmanageable, the substance that they were powerless against, and they're exploring other things, not in secret, and doing it either with professional help or out in the open. They're not trying to hide anything, and it's not the same thing. So there's that. And what people need to remember is Bill W. did do LSD because of his depression and anxiety. So AA didn't fix the core problem, which that is the entire advertisement of it, is it will take care of the core issues. It can absolutely get your life in order by addressing your resentments, your fears, and the problems that you've caused in your family and that type of thing. It can absolutely do that, and it can do other things for other people. But it doesn't always fix the depression and the anxiety, the chemical imbalances, the things that are wrong inside. Now, whether your substance created these problems, probably not. The only reason, in my belief, that I was using was to cover up traumas inflicted upon myself, insecurities inflicted by my environment, and that's why I used. So Number one, you have to realize that the creator of this wonderful thing, AA, went outside of AA and used LSD. You have to understand that when you're commenting on people and what they're trying to do, whether it be marijuana or some other mushrooms or whatever it is. Okay. The second comment that I've gotten a couple of times in the past couple of weeks is maybe you need to get some more time. Shouldn't you have a little more recovery time before you start commenting on certain things? I had a client at work who's like, well, this dude's got the same sobriety than I. Why am I going to go talk to him as a peer recovery coach? And that's fair, and that's an honest question. And that one's different than the other two. So to address the AA side of it first, Bill W. was going out and talking to people weeks into his recovery. Okay, so AA, what he created, his baby started very, very early in his recovery, going and talking to people at Towns Hospital and other places that he was traveling. So to sit and say that somebody who only has 3 months, 4 months, a month, whatever, shouldn't have a right to talk about their recovery and give their ideas on it is absolutely ridiculous and uncalled for, in my opinion. But you have the right to do so, and I will have a conversation with you. But I think, when I envision myself 20, 30 years sober, who the fuck do I want to talk to? Another person with 20, 30 years sober? Or do I want to talk to the man or woman that's right in the thick of it to remind me that, hey, you know what? When I retire, maybe I shouldn't pick up a beer. To keep those things fresh. So anyway, for whatever reason, this morning I woke up and I'm feeling pretty damn good. I'm doing a podcast. If you see me do a podcast, in the past, when I started journaling my podcast in this first year of recovery, I would make myself do the podcast even when I felt like shit, but I didn't have a job to go to at that time. I wasn't really living with anybody other than my great grandmother that I had to conversate with. So the environment was low, and that was one thing that I could force and make myself to do. In these past couple of weeks, I had to wake up, I had to force myself to get dressed and do something with my hair and look professional to go to work. So all these other things are like at play, and it gives all kinds of excuses for me not to sit down in front of this camera and do a quick podcast. So I wanted to do one this morning to give some authenticity, to talk about where I'm at. I do have guests in the queue right now. Hopefully even one this Sunday at 1 that is locked in. Got a gentleman that just reached out today from another one from Ireland, which is really freaking cool. And if we can work that out, that's going to be a good one because it kind of goes along with what I talked about today. That's all I'll say about that so far. But yeah, it's time to get ready for work. I'm going to listen to some music to kind of let the mind ease before I get there, and try to be a more engageable person to everybody at work, not just select few. And yeah, be authentic, dudes, females, women, men, children of all ages listening to the podcast. Just be who you are as often as you can, and try not to make a life that's based on just pleasing everybody. You'll be a lot happier at the end, and so will they, because they'll know who they're getting. So I'm not a professional, so take my advice or leave it, but that's what I'm doing for me, and that's what's working for me. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon, I hope. Bye-bye.